Exactly.
You and John attended the first meeting. Do you remember the first meeting? What was it like, those first meetings that the movement had, the mass meetings that were going on in 56 and 57?
I think we were in Reverend Alford's church. I'm not even sure, but it was somewhere up on Enon Ridge or up that way. Was that where it was, Sardis?
Sardis.
Yeah.
Probably Sardis.
I remember better than I thought.
Yes.
I can't tell you everybody that was there, mostly ministers, but the women like Mrs. Plump and me,
what was the atmosphere like? I mean, you said
I don't remember
Reverend
that they had guards. I'm sure they did have.
You said Reverend Shuttlesworth made a statement to Mrs. Plump.
Yeah, well, we were all putting up, you know, who will give $100, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you can't operate without money. And Mrs. Plump was a very wealthy woman and very interested in doing something about race relations. She and I worked together back before that. She and Myra Bryant, Miss Anderson, Miss Giscombe, all
these are black women?
Yep. Some of them were black like me, and some of them were black like you. But we were already going to Burger Phillips and Loveman's and asking them to take down the signs over the water fountains and so forth.
Did you ever go into, I know that there were times when black people would go into certain stores and they were not allowed to try on the hats, for instance.
I don't go put my foot in Sears Roebuck today because of that. I went to Sears Roebuck with Eleanor Anderson, and I had been going in and out of Sears Roebuck, and Eleanor had a beautiful dress, and she'd been looking for a hat. I said, "There's the hat, Eleanor." And I grabbed the hat, and she started screaming, don't do that, don't do that. I said, "Try that hat on, Eleanor. It's just like the one you're looking for." And by that time, the salespeople were over there, and they were snatching the hat out of Eleanor and out of our hands. And when I found out what it was about, they gave Eleanor a rag to put on her head, and then she could put the hat on. And I said, "Let us get out of here." And we got out, and until this day, I haven't been in Sears Roebuck.
You have not been to Sears Roebuck?
No, I haven't.
In 40 years.
That's right, and they keep on writing me, telling me that I have an automatic charge account. Well, they can keep it.
Did you ever go into the places alone and were allowed to put on the hats?
I went everywhere because I didn't know any better. See,
and they simply assumed that you were white?
I guess so. They didn't bother me until I went in with somebody who wasn't. You know, I think I told you that story about me in Burger Phillips' parking lot.
No, would you tell me?
Well, I had been going in there for years. I usually would go shopping alone because I still do. And I would drive up there and 4th Avenue, you went up, and the man came out and, "Good morning, ma'am," and he gave you a ticket, and he took your car and put it somewhere, and you walked across a ramp, and so the white ladies wouldn't get wet, and did your shopping, you come back out, and they give them the ticket, they bring you your car. "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am." I've been doing that for years. Jean Belcher, Dr. Belcher's wife, and Mina King, from her husband was a big surgeon. She was from out of town. She came in town to shop, and we got in. I picked them up. We're going down to Burger Phillips to shop, and we're laughing and happy. I drive up in there like I've been driving up there all along. And the boy that's been parking my car, he comes over, and I said, "Good morning." And he looked at them, and he asked me, "What's my nationality?" I said, "I'm American, so what? Give me the ticket." He runs and gets the boss, the manager, and the boss comes over and he tells me that we don't park colored cars. I said, "I see a blue one and a green one and a yellow one. What are you talking? You don't park colored cars." Jean and Minor were just going crazy. They just knew we were going to get lynched, you know, or something terrible was going to happen. And I was telling them to shut up, and they were, Dennie, please, please. I said, let me get to the bottom of this. I don't know what's going on. So he told me I had to take the car out of there. And I said, just tell me what you're talking about. And then I found out that...
Did you not know what was going on?
I did not know. See, there are a lot of mistakes I made. If I had known, I don't know whether I would have ever gone in there. I just don't know.
So this was not a protest, more or less. It was
no, that was ignorance on my part. But then I did protest mightily.
Yes. Then what, did anything ever come of that? Did you ever make a formal protest to that store?
Oh, I did indeed. I went in there and threatened to cancel my my charge account, and I stayed out of there a long time. But I didn't cancel because I loved their stuff, you know. And I loved it. And I had this house I was furnishing, and I had this, I loved it, and I didn't cancel it. But I took most of my business elsewhere, but I did not cancel that.
Right. So really, at the time that the movement started, you and others were really sort of ripe for that because of the things that you had gone through.
And when we were trying to do something about it. We had an interracial women's group. Oh.
Is this
before I married John.
Is that right?
Yeah,
this
with
is prior
Miss
to the
Anderson,
movement.
yeah. And they did a lot of praying. And that was never exactly my long suit. But I understood why, because, well, there was a white woman whose name was Tatum, Nora Tatum, Nora Tatum. I know the last name was Tatum because it was something about bread. And she lived on 15th Street up on the Highland. We couldn't go there for our meeting when her turn came until her husband went to work. And so I guess they needed a lot to, you know, the women were scared to death.
This is 15th Street South?
Yeah. You know, where you...
Yes. So
sorority, and you know where sororities is? Well,
yes.
Just another block.
Yes. What were some of the issues that this interracial women's group would deal
We
with?
went to, makes you laugh now, mostly we went to stores, and I forgot what we called that committee. I was always on it. We'd go to the stores and ask them to clean the ladies' rooms or furnish, furnish, the women had no ladies' rooms down there. There were no ladies' rooms in those big black big stores. I think...
like Loveman's and
I think either Loveman or Positz had one way down in the basement. Now, you're up on the 7th floor, you know, and you need to go, and you have to go way down in the... I think it was Positz that had it in the basement. One of them did. But most of them didn't have any facilities. And if you took your children, and I used to have to carry a little jar with a screw top on it around for Jeff. Fortunately, he was a little boy. And when I'd have to bring him downtown to buy shoes or whatever, no, I didn't go to the bathroom.
So there were there rest areas and restrooms for white women?
Oh, yeah, sure. I've been in all of them.
But for the black women, there were
none.
There were none.
Loveman probably had the nicest one. They had a balcony up there over the first floor, and they had a tea room up there. And off the tea room was a restroom where ladies could go and sit down and chat, and if they were tired. And then the toilets and wash basins were set off from that. Very nice.
But tell me about some of the experiences that you had as related to the movement. I know that you knew Martin Luther King personally. There were times when he would come in, he would actually spend time at your home.
Yes.
Can you tell us just a bit about how the movement evolved, say from the beginning of the Alabama Christian movement until just prior to Dr. King coming to Birmingham in '63. What was happening? What was taking place? What were the focus of the movement at that time? Did you have any close relationships with the movement prior to the big demonstrations of '63?
I can't. Alabama Christian Movement invited SCLC here.
Right.
And at that time, Fred was zeroing in, I think, on schools. He had children, and he was trying to put some of them in Phillips, if my mind serves me right. Okay. And he was severely beaten with chains and all manner of things.
And his wife was stabbed in the hip at the time.
Right, that's right. And that caused us to, those kinds of things just made us livid. I can't tell you, because I can't remember, any one specific thing that caused us to invite them in. The Montgomery bus boycott had, of course, given us a lot of courage.
Sure.
And I guess we knew. You want me to stop?
No, just go ahead.
I guess we knew from the bus boycott that more than Albany or any of those other places that you could do something, that something can be done. I just really and truly don't remember what the spark was. You may know. I don't remember.
Yes. Obviously, there was a necessity for
we needed help.
Right. We needed help, but SCLC needed help also because of the Albany
failure
situation.
So-called failure.
So-called failure. And there was a national meeting, I believe, in someplace in Georgia, and there was discussion of what was next, and I believe that's where the invitation was given to have the meeting here in Birmingham. When Dr. King came to Birmingham, when did you first meet him?
Oh, I first met him, I guess we had been married a year. That must have been about 51.
He initially came to Dexter in '54, I believe. And
in '54?
I believe it was '54, yes. '54.
Well, then I guess I met him in '55. When did the bus boycott start?
The boycott was '55.
Well, I'll tell you how I met him, and then you can tell me what year it was, because I'm not good at remembering years. We had been to Tuskegee to a funeral, John and me. And as we were leaving there, John said, "Dennie, we got to stop in Montgomery." He said, "There's a little, you know what he said down there, calling me about getting some insurance on those buses." And he said, "I got to stop by there and see what he's talking about." He said, "I just don't know what we could possibly do." But anyway, I'm going to give him the courtesy. And so that's when I met him for the first time.
Yeah, that's probably '55.
All right.
So then, how did you, I assume that your families then became rather
But John and his father were at Morehouse at the same time. His father was quite a bit older. I mean, was 8 or 9 years older than John, but he was late going to college.
Right.
But they were at Morehouse together. And as years went on, John worked in New York. Yeah, he worked in New York too, but he worked in Atlanta and down on Sweet Auburn, and they renewed all their, friendships and ties and stuff. And so John knew his father very well. And now I guess that's how Mike called John, is because of the association between his father.
Was John able to insure the cars?
Oh, yes. Yes, he did. He he remembered that T.M. Alexander, they're the, you know, I always say John was the and Company, Alexander and Company,
Sure.
T.M. Alexander and Company.
Sure.
Well, T.M. had a line straight to Lloyd's of London.
Right.
And so on the way driving, after John found out, you know, and he said, I got to help him. I don't care. I got to help him. As soon as we got home, he said, you go drive home. He went to the office, started calling companies and asking, would you take this? Would you take it? And everybody, no, too risky, too risky, too risky. And so he said, well, the only thing I can do is to see if Alec still has that contact with Lloyd's. And so he called Alec, and Alec did have. And so then, you know, we were all the same company. And at that time, we did finally buy out at Alabama, but anyway, they made contact with whoever at Lloyd's of London, and they said, okay, they would do this.
Okay.
And that's how the bus boycott became successful.
Right, as a result of John being the intermediary between King and Lloyd's of London.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Well, when Martin King then came to Birmingham in 1963, can you tell me any of the occurrences that you may remember that was quite vivid to you, and how that portion of the movement would evolve? I know he came in a number of times prior to, in April, you know.
Yeah, he came and visited us one Saturday. He and Shuttlesworth and Nelson Smith and Abernathy, I can see these men plainly walking down that long drive with these big hats. You know, the men used to wear these big broad brim.
That's right.
I don't remember. That was very early in the 50s. I don't remember. And I think we struck up a friendship. Of course, with John, it was, you know, he already knew his parents and all that so well, but I didn't. And they began talking from time to time about the needs. And then Mike sat down one day and asked me a lot of the same kind of things you're asking me. You know, Dennie, how did you ever come to this hellhole? This is the hellhole of the world, you know, and all. How did you do this? And blah, blah, blah.
You called Martin Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. And I think it was during that time that he said if they did come here to work, could ask me if he could stay at my house. I said I'd be honored, sure, yeah. He said, well, now, I said yes, you know, whatever it takes, yes. So that's how come people said, Dennie, how did he ever stay at John? I said, because he asked me. And
he actually asked you if he came, could he stay?
Yeah, because he knew that he was going to need somewhere aside from the hotel.
So how often did he come to your house?
Oh, I couldn't possibly tell you that.
Many times. Also.
Many. He'd call any time of the day or night, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, morning, noon, or night, you know, and say I'm in Europe or I'm in California and my plane arrives at. And
so I would assume then that in addition to him staying at your home, that you and others similar to you who had businesses actually donated a lot of money to the movement.
Yes.
Was this something that
we even put up our properties?
For any particular, what about?
For bail bond.
Okay. Did you lose any
John
of
had
those?
tickets up. He sat out there, and all those people in the neighborhood, and the brewers, Dr. Hamp Brewer, oh, he had so much property. And they came and they brought those tax cards, and John just stacked them, you know, and give him a receipt. No, we never lost a penny.
Okay. Do you know of any other people that lost money as a result of putting property up or lost property?
No.
During that time, so.
No. But now, of course, I would have known if anybody lost property. John pretty much helped he had his hand in all the financial dealings, I'll say it that. He had his hand in the whole darn thing, if you want to know the truth.
Sure, yeah.
But certainly in the financial dealings.
Mm-hmm. John then was one of those individuals who, although he was not in the spotlight, he worked behind the scene, but in fact, he was part of the negotiation committees,
He was part of
right?
it all.
Yes.
There was no part that he wasn't a part of.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a preacher. I mean, you know, he didn't.
Right.
He didn't do that.
Right. How was Jeff at the time? He was in elementary school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did he get out of school or participate in any demonstrations or anything at that time?
Uncle Mike wouldn't let him. Uncle Mike said, Jeff, if you ever become 12, I'm going to take you to jail with me, and you can stay as long as you want to. And so Jeff was like 8, 9, 10, 11.
So he would not allow him to until he was 12.
No, he said if we went, you know, Jeff or me or John, they were shooting in our house, you know, and dynamiting, and here we are heading up this stuff, and we were troublemakers, and we were all of that. He said there's no telling what would happen to Jeff. It wasn't worth taking a chance. And but we used to have to hide him at Breck Marshall and Dorr, and all those people would know when there was going to be a bombing or a shooting or something up there.
They would know?
Yeah. And they would call me Tom Nolan. There were two of those Toms. One was a Dolan and one was a Nolan. But he would call and say, Miss Drew, drive your car on the back of your lot. You know, we owned half a city lot. Drive it back there near the barn where the pony used to be. And just take a pillow back there and a blanket. And Jeff, because they say they're going to blow up your house tonight, or they're going to bomb it, or, you know, something.
This was, I assume, as a result of a plant that they had within the Ku Klux Klan, within the city government?
It was Klan and police that sometime they would form a ring on the corner where 11th Avenue and Center Street, that intersection, and they would form a ring around there, and there were big street lights up above. They'd shoot out all of those lights, and some of the people were dressed in policemen's clothing.
So, in fact, they were policemen.
And my house was on that corner.
Well, that could be very frightening for you and your child.
The night they made Jeff and John lie down on the ground.
No, what?
That was the worst thing I ever went through.
Tell me about that.
Well, that's it. There's nothing else to tell you.
Who made them
These
lie
same
down?
characters that I'm talking
Did
about.
they come
How do
to
you
the
know
house?
who they are?
They come to the
They
house.
were on Center Street. I don't know whether they were trying to get down to Shore's house or what. I've forgotten that part of it. There's some things you have to block out. And they forced them to lie down. And I think that's that same night that they killed the man. So if you want to go back and find out all that, you can. There was a man killed out there near Shore's house, and a bomb went off.
Okay.
And so that's when it happened.
So was John and Jeff then, did they come to the house, or were they coming in at the time?
John and Jeff?
Yes.
No, they were out on the walk.
I see.
We live on Center Street, and Shores lives on Center Street. I can't remember, to save my soul. I think I blocked that out. But they had him prone, and I guess as soon as the things walked away, they jumped up and ran back home. I don't know. I was there, but
right. Some of those things you don't want to remember.
And I got rid of it.
Is there anything else that we have simply not covered that you remember vividly that you think would be important for an oral history project to tell? Any other things that I've not asked you?
There's so many stories.
There's just so many stories. What I think what is important is that you have really given us an idea of how you came into the city, the kinds of things that you encountered that led you to really be adamantly involved with the movement, and how important your family was for the movement.